Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Business, organized by JCI European Senate. I'm Philippe Carrera.
And I'm Robert van Waart.
Today we have as our guest Harald Lepisk, Estonian inspirator with a lot of experience as a trainer, as a coach. And he was also vice president of JCI Estonia. So welcome, Harald. And we would like first to get some ideas about your business experience, what you have been doing. Can you tell us a little bit?
Okay. Well, for the last 14 years, I've been running my own training company, which I started when I was in JCI. I came to JCI to become a trainer.
Yeah, I remember you were like this small.
Yes. Yeah. And about the same age as I am right now. So things don't change in me. But I started in JCI and I did my first trainings through JCI in JCI. And now it's something I do full time. I've done more than 1,000 trainings by now. And
so you are counting them. Wow.
Yeah, because in JCI, you're supposed to count it. And since I felt that since you counted the first 100 of them, then might as well keep counting them forward. And I think it was a really nice habit. In a context of JCI, JCI was the key element of starting my trainer career because of the ability to have mentors who are experienced trainers and the ability to have first training opportunities. My first training was for junior achievement. I did public speaking training for student companies, which was a really nice opportunity. Then they asked me to do some trainings on creativity. I discovered that's a really cool area. And it kind of spontaneously went on from there. So I validated that this is my calling, this is my thing. I have a special talent or gift I can bring to the marketplace. And this has been my main source of income starting from there. And for me, it's, I guess it's the key thing. You figure out what your gift or talent is and you are able to go out there, deliver it, and the people pay money for that. I mean, what else can you expect from life? So for me, being in JCI was a really good starting point, and especially on the first years. And I think after some period, maybe like 5 years or 10 years, you kind of feel that I have a bit grown out from JCI in a sense. I'm still more as a mentor for like our former and current presidents, and then not attending all the events as I was in the beginning, but rather trying to be selectively valuable, meaning that when I'm there, then I'm adding some value, not just hanging around. But it's cool to see newer generations coming, and it's cool to see the organization itself. What I'm very proud of, I used to be a local president myself as well. And in my year, we were able to, we were heading down, but we were able to get up again. And I'm really proud to see that after, I'm not sure how many years is it from then, maybe nearly about 7 years or something, our chapter is still going strong, which is really important sign for me if the chapter is able to sustain that number of members and is able to sustain that when it's the award ceremony in Estonia, then our chapter is often getting most of the awards or a lot of them. And it's for me, it's one of the criteria of seeing that have some of the decisions that we have made in the past, have they worked well. So many of the things that we do today actually will determine our success in like 7 years or something from here. So it depends on the choices that we make. Yeah. But on the business side, my background, like before coming as a trainer, I was a DJ. I built my own DJ equipment rental business. We did our first online DJ equipment store. It was in year 2000, if I recall correctly. And back then, online store
You were
was
like
a really
3 years old in year 2000.
yes, probably, yeah. So online stores were a really innovative thing back then, especially in Estonia. And these were like the starting points where I figured out that entrepreneurship is a really exciting thing. And one of the key reasons, I think, for me is that I've always managed to monetize my passions, because when I was a DJ, that was my thing, that was my world, that was my vision, that when I was 40 I would be a DJ in some cool rave club in Germany or whichever the thing is. That used to be my vision. Luckily I have a newer vision now as a trainer, but for me, entrepreneurship is a very positive thing, because it means you can apply your talents and you can make money with that. And this means that you can sustain living and performing your gifts and talents. And now we are in a very interesting era, because whoever is in the events business or training business, and whoever gets their main income from physical events has been in a very interesting times starting from March. And luckily for me, it has been a good time to I have had time to prepare my online courses and other things that I haven't had time before. Plus, also I have a second son now who is 3 months old, so it's kind of like I'm feeling that in a way it's good that the market is a bit more limited on delivering trainings, because otherwise I would probably be too much away from the family. And I guess it's always the question that whatever the situation is, if we cannot change the situation, then we have to ask, so what is good in that situation? What is good in my context in that situation? What is it that I can do instead of what I can't do? And at the moment in Estonia, it's a bit suspicious. Will they close all the events down again? So you never know what happens next week. But at the moment, the training schedule is tight again, and people are open to making those things. Although recently on Saturday, we had one training day where all the participants were wearing masks and everything. So I was joking that it felt similar to Arab Innovation Academy, where ladies were wearing those things that I thought that it's only in Arab, but now we are here in Estonia with the masks as well. So things are interesting. I think it's the only word that we can use to describe the context is interesting, because it's different, and as long as we are healthy, then it's interesting.
It's interesting, very interesting, Harald. But is interesting good or is it bad? Is there a value for it on it?
Yeah.
Is it
interesting? When you say word interesting, it arises curiosity in you, and curiosity means opportunities or something I can learn. And one thing that even if it's a bit tough time, I think sometimes the tough thing isn't maybe the corona thing, but tough thing is just when you have 2 little kids at home and handling all that stuff. Maybe sometimes that's even tougher. When it's tough, it's when they close the kindergarten. So it's interesting because you know that this too shall pass, and one day when you look back, then it made you stronger. Otherwise, if it wouldn't have come, maybe you would have been in your comfort zone. So it really makes us think things true in training industry as well. We have to really ask, do we always have to organize trainings, or should we really ask what are valuable training events? Maybe actually we should skip a lot of them. Maybe we should do them in different formats. I think those interesting times make us ask more interesting questions, and hopefully I'm hopeful on that one, that after a year or two we look back and we see that it took us forward. Now the only key is, how are we able to sustain ourselves mentally, mostly emotionally? That is the key thing, because if we hurt ourselves mentally and emotionally, that is something that is tougher to fix later on. But in other contexts, then it's not that tricky. I'm personally very, I've kind of been feeling that for the past 2 or 3 years, I'm always feeling that the economy will soon go like crash down. But it hasn't, because they've been pumping money into the economy, and it's kind of like a person who is tired, but you force them to drink coffee. that's what's going on in the economy, that actually we need to let some air out, but instead we're pumping money in, which is basically like we have a person who is injured and we're pumping him up with ecstasy, coffee, stuff like that.
I was thinking that it was something stronger than coffee.
Yes. So basically the party will continue, but physically it's the system
well, basically it's like a JCI conference. You end up the day with the trainings, with General Assembly, and then you are like at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and you are still jumping up and down, and at 7 o'clock you have a training. So we can relate, the three of us, to that experience. Harold, I have a question that is at the same time a comment, because I think we live in moments that we need a lot of creativity. And I remember that I learned one thing with you back when we were doing a training together in Romania, if you remember correctly.
Yes.
That we had, I remember one special dinner that we were crying of so much laughing because we actually used your creativity formula. That was, instead of saying but of not. Not.
It's like, usually it's like yes, but instead we used
yes and. Mm-hmm. And so we started to create a story, a crazy story that didn't stop, because it was like and we reached levels of creativity that were very, very interesting. And this is a small trick that I learned from that dinner, and it's something very interesting. For instance, I use it when doing an email. I tend to write but instead, and then I go to correct, and I focus on the end. Can you elaborate a little bit on that trick? Because I find it very, very useful to anybody, especially if you are an entrepreneur, you are, let's say, jump-starting your creativity.
So the yes and method comes from improvisation comedy or improvisation theater. So when actors go on the stage, they agree that we are in the yes and mode, which means that whatever you throw at me, I will play forward with it. I won't start to argue that, no, this is a bad idea, we won't do it, I'm not willing to go for it. But rather with the yes and, you play around and you continue. And when we take it on the business context, then it's very easy that, for example, let's say you have a tough time in your business and you're thinking, okay, I could open this new service and start providing it over there. And then you have immediately that reaction with yourself or your business partner that, yes, that's a nice idea, but we can't do it because, I don't know, we're not good at it, or we don't have the resources, or we don't know how to build this technology or website. And often our ideas die in that moment. But the key thing with the ideas is that ideas, when they are born, they are like babies. And babies, well, you don't expect a baby to walk immediately. You don't expect a baby to find a wife or a husband and get married and get children immediately. You let them grow a little bit, right? And that's the same thing with ideas. The first idea is always kind of crap. What makes the idea good is when you develop it, when you get feedback, when you validate the idea. And that's why the yes and principle means that when you have this initial idea, yes, it is crap, but you have to keep running. You have to keep going with that idea. You have to further develop that on before you decide that we can't do it, because you can figure out ways to do it. And that's one of the key things when I mentor like startup entrepreneurs or like young student companies who are making their first business idea. It's always the first idea is crap. We have to mentor them to give them ideas or perspectives. How can you make this product actually really valuable? And that's where the yes and mindset comes in, because yes and usually says that, yes but says that we won't discuss this idea, but you want to further discuss this idea. And the way to do it, actually, as Felipe mentioned, we had it on one dinner as a yes and conversation, and we started playing around with some like crazy imaginative world. It's something I would encourage you to do with your business partner, or maybe with yourself, in a way that before you want to get some new ideas, for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, you agree we are in the yes and state. Everything we say, we build upon it. We won't say that I don't like this idea is crap, but we focus on the opportunities. And afterwards, you can switch back from there, but you start with that mindset. What it does, it kind of expands what you see. Otherwise, you only see those 3 options, those things you considered 5 years ago already. But with the yes and, you kind of open up, what else can we do? And I think in times like these, we have to maybe for a moment spread our vision, because if we're very limited on one area, for example, physical events, and that area is closed down, we have to figure out how else can we help people.
So have you been doing that, Harald, the last period as well? Of course, the yes and was your newborn baby. I understand it, but business-wise, have you been doing yes and as well for yourself, for your business, for your trainings, lectures, mentoring, those kind of things?
Yeah, well, one of my things is that I always feel that I don't have that much time to develop my online courses, something that I want to do, but it's kind of like a different model. It's like a bit like a canned food.
If I remember correctly, you started before the pandemic, much before the pandemic, to offer online courses.
Yes.
I saw some of them. So it's not a question that you just jump, like a lot of people now jumped to the online courses.
Yeah. So it's not something like radically new. It's something like that I felt that is a right direction, but I kind of maybe I would have wanted to put more effort over there before, but now I had the opportunity to do that. And it was really interesting because some of the clients started asking those things from me, because otherwise before that, it was kind of like I deliver a training and I push it to the market.
Yeah,
but
there was no market waiting for you.
It was much more better to serve a market that asked for it. Yeah. So I'm not saying it's like totally like this direction, but I'm saying that you start to listen for the opportunities. You start to see that, and let's see where it takes us. But that's one of the fields that I was actually able to make money even if the physical events were banned. I also did something I did before, but I'm very passionate about equipment, all the lights, microphones, things. So I have my little rental business. I rent my own cameras and everything out. So I also made some extra money while I was actually at home. So I give them out and I can hang around with my kids, and at the same time I'm making money. So that's one of the key elements. If you're banned to go out there and do your work, then you start to ask, what are some of the other ways I can actually make that income work in a way? So I guess that's where we need to, for a moment at least, see something maybe a bit different from our main area. But in my context, since I mentioned that I always felt that for 3 years that the recession will come soon, then obviously if you know that the winter is coming, then you make sure you have some
you because you are from Estonia, you are an expert on winter.
Yes, we know what winter means. So for me, another thing is that since I knew that I would have a second kid, then I made sure I have enough monetary resources that I actually don't need to do all that stuff. I could live 2 or 3 years without any extra income, because of the savings and because of the cost of my lifestyle, which is very reasonably thought out. And that kind of gives me this safety that I don't need to do that stuff to survive, but I can do that to express myself creatively. And I actually personally believe that as a human being, I'm not able to just sit for years and do nothing. I need to create. I need to put something out there. So that's the reason why I'm doing those things. Not necessarily that I need them to survive, but I as a human being, I need to put something out there because that's part of being alive. And
I'm really curious about, because you're. I told Philippe just before this call, just before the Facebook event, that I met you, or I don't know if you remember, you actually were my first trainer within JCI many years ago.
Which country? What
It
year?
was in Denmark.
Denmark. It was a European conference, and there was your personal strategy workshop, if I recall.
And
perhaps.
with a famous composer from Estonia with music. And
Arvo Pärts, we visualized, yes.
Yes, yes. So since then I've been since then I've been following and your creativity as well, and your entrepreneurship, and I can imagine that you've also walked some paths which afterwards, when you look back, you say, "Oh my God, that was not a good path. That was not a good direction." Where were your biggest learnings these past years? What was the biggest insights?
So I think, since I'm very, by nature, I'm a very careful person. So my background is in economics, and in economics, I've studied a lot about risk management and everything. So my decisions are always quite well thought through, and I don't lose large amounts of money on things that don't work. I rather test them on a very tiny scale. I guess in that context, the biggest regrets rather would be of not jumping on some train earlier before, or at least for me, it's kind of like something of not shipping those things before. Many of the things that I've created, for example, online courses or things, is kind of something that idea I had several of years ago, and the final thing went live after a couple of years of that. Yeah. But I could have done it earlier. Yes. So I think my, in a way, biggest mistake is perhaps polishing a bit too much. Yeah. It's rather, whenever we have a product, you should push a little bit out to the market and just close it and do it, because for polishing, you work on those minor details, and that doesn't matter that much. No. But you could have had that launched earlier before. And for example, online courses in that context is something if you reach it out there, then you have time to work it on. But for example, my first bigger online course was actually a big disappointment for me. I was expecting I will upload it to Udemy and magic will work and millions of people will find it. But obviously it's full of algorithms. So algorithms work in a different way, and you have to really understand how it works, that if you get a lot of traction in the beginning, they will show it and so forth. So I didn't get I was very disappointed on the results that I got, especially in the monetary wise. It was like, I put so much time in there, but the result is so bad. So I kind of was a bit sad about it, or maybe disappointed in the e-learning industry for a year or two. But then at one moment I decided that, okay, I feel I want to cover this one topic, mentoring. Because it was something I had done a lot of in JCI and running as a mentor program here as well. And I decided I would just create the course and give it away for free. That's all. So I uploaded it over there, and it was for free, and people came in, and that was everything nice. And since I didn't have any expectations, then everything was nice. If people came there, left some nice reviews, everything was nice. But at one moment, I got a bit confused when I saw that every month I started to get money on my free course. I was like, what's going on? How is it possible that it's a free course and Udemy says I earned some money with it? And then I realized that they put it on the business. They have the Udemy for Business section where companies pay actually a monthly fee. And it came out that the mentoring was a very popular topic for companies. So actually my free course has made me more money than my paid course over there, which is like a paradox. But
so what is the lesson? Do things faster or make them free? Or
the lesson, first of all, is that you shouldn't get disappointed in your first try. If I would have said that e-learning thing doesn't work, you can't make money over there. I made a course and millions of people could have seen it, but no one saw it. Like, it would be too much of a generalization, because life today is so filled with algorithms. And that's one of the first lessons. And I think the second lesson maybe is that, well, it could be, or it could be some other lesson, but I think in my context is that do something that you really feel that you want to put out there in the world, even if it doesn't make any money for you. if you really believe that this is something that needs to be covered. But then again, I don't know, maybe I was just lucky that someone discovered that of my course. But the point is that when I started seeing revenue coming in from that, and a lot of people subscribing for it, even the free ones, not the Udemy Business, that gave me confidence to actually work on the other courses as well. And then mostly I've done some, next ones are on public speaking and so forth. And I actually became, for me, it even became more valuable from the money. It became so exciting to see the impact of how many students you have and what's the feedback you get from there. And I think that's one of the key things, that in business, if you only go in for the money, then you are likely to be disappointed in the beginning, because it is unlikely that you will be so lucky and get significant amount of money over there. But if you go in for something that you actually care and you want to help people, and if any money comes, then this, whatever the amount is, it's much more valuable for you, because you kind of didn't have those expectations, but rather you just wanted to deliver. Another learning point for any kind of digital product is that my mistake is that I don't want to put so much energy in marketing. And whatever you put out there, if you don't do marketing, then it won't fly, because people are not able to find it or recommend it. It has to be something really magical that people will be word of mouth and spreading. Maybe some of the listeners who are listening to us, maybe they have similar expectations, because they think that some guy put something out there, it went viral, and they expect that it should work for them as well. But maybe it's kind of like, not to expect that things go viral. Just put it out there and be ready to do marketing. This year I had my first book. I co-authored it with another author, and he's a marketing guy, and I really felt that he's kind of like, if I put 80% energy in my developing the content and 20% for marketing, he's more like 20% for content and 80% for marketing, because he's the guy who's actually really motivated for the sales numbers and having that number impact. And it's really good combo to have those two of them. So as an entrepreneur, if we're on our own, we have to ask, if we are building something that has to reach a lot of people, what are the qualities that I am currently missing out? Something that I don't want to do, I don't know how to do, and who can I bring in? And let's do it together. So I bring a good content, and the other person delivers the other part. So, and add something to the content that I'm not able to add, and that's the key. Because without that, if we're on our own, one of the mistakes that I have done in my past is I've done too many things on my own. One of the reasons maybe is that it's easier to do, well, it feels like easier to do things on your own, because you kind of can manage it yourself and everything. But I think one of the mistakes is that many of the things I could have done with a good partner, and maybe those things would have had a lot bigger impact. So it's not always that the mistakes are something that you fully failed, but I would say my mistakes have been that maybe several things could have been something on a whole new level, and that's something that can be considered as a failure as well. But luckily, for example, in the book context, it was really exciting to kind of have that part be covered as well. So we have to really face what are we missing, and see who are the partners who actually love that part, and figure out how we...
I think one of the things that comes out from what you were just saying, but you didn't say with those words, so let's see if I'm doing a good overview of it, is that when we are in this new ecosystem that is the digital ecosystem, it is also very important what we learn with what we consider a failure. And because if we strike it right at first, maybe it is the wrong approach, because it might create the possibility of a bigger failure afterwards. Instead, if we fail fast in a small scale, it is a learning experience. Is this a kind of overview of what you were saying?
Yes, working with a lot of startups, it's called the feedback loop. So it's the quicker you get feedback for your product, for your service, if it's a good quality feedback, the quicker you can improve your product. So the worst case.
By the way, only to interrupt you, the problem sometimes is that you tend to try to get feedback from people that at some point they might be, especially in Southern European countries, that are your family, your friends, and they don't want to hurt your feelings. Yes. And I know that the Nordic approach is completely different.
Well, yeah. It's kind. I would say that if you want someone to encourage you, then show your product or service to your mother. Mothers always love you, so they will say, "Yes, it's very nice. I love you, my son." But if you want to actually get ideas what to change, then go and show it to some potential customers. Or, for example, my mindset is always when I do the business mentoring on or workshops on business idea development, I always seek for the weakest link in the idea. And I feel that I can add the most value for the person if I say that you have to figure that thing out, because that's kind of that's the toughest part with your idea. So make sure you have that covered. And for some people, it might feel that I'm kind of making them vulnerable or somehow attacking. But this way, I'm trying to help them understand what are the main threats out there. And you need to find that kind of people who really pinpoint it out. And you need to have several parts of them. Depends on what's the product that you're building, but even on the online course, actually, even if I record everything and edit everything and uploaded everything, I have done a lot of work. And if I realize that I should have structured it in another way, or actually I should have covered some other topics, then it's a bit tough to change it afterwards. So it's always good to link it. For me, a really good testing ground for online courses have been the live courses. So I've done those things usually on the live courses. I've seen with the live audience what their questions are. And this has helped me to kind of aim it in a better way and make it more impactful and useful. But yeah, choose the person you want to get feedback from, and depending what kind of encouragement you want to have. In the beginning, it's okay to have those only very positive people and say they love you. And at one moment you have to be
straight for yourself as well, huh?
Yeah, and if you feel that you were hurt from the feedback, what hurts us with the ideas is when we take it personal. If we're able to, the expression is nothing personal, just business. I mean, we have the let's talk business talk. It should mean that you're able to be very rational. But for example, for me as well, if it's my online course and if some student doesn't like it, or they feel that that didn't cover the topics that they wanted to have, then it kind of feels personal that I did a bad job. I don't say that I have a bad product, but I felt that I did a bad job. And for me now,
because at the same time, you are the product at the same time. So
kind of, yeah.
It's very difficult not to be personal on that.
I think this taking it personal has its advantages and disadvantages. Actually, one of the advantages is that if you're taking it very personally and you care for it, and if you apply what you get as a feedback, then you actually take action and change something because you care for your craft. If you would be like, whatever they talk, I don't care, I made an amazing product, then you don't develop maybe. You always think that you already made so good stuff. So I think when I'm reflecting on myself, the key thing is that to get over from the personal part quickly so that you could start with the rational part of what do I need to change. And it's the same thing with if you're a business owner and listening to this, if people don't like your product, then you have to get quickly over of that personal thing that, it's my idea and they don't like it. And you quickly have to ask, so what is it that you need this thing to do so that it would be valuable for you? Or what are the important qualities for you? So you need to ask those right questions and direct your mind over that, because feeling sad about something paralyzes us. And I think I have wasted a lot of hours and energy in my life feeling sad about, feeling personal about something. But in some occasions, that feeling down has struck me that, okay, it's enough. I have to change. I have to do things differently. So for me, one of the aids that help me is when I'm feeling kind of down, then I do writing, I do journaling, I do like I ask questions from myself. What did I learn today? What can I take from that experience? And this helps me to take those emotions down and focus rationally. Okay, what can I do? And it helps me kind of make peace with myself. Otherwise, it's always struggling with myself. Why didn't I perform the way I wanted to? But writing it down, thinking it through, it kind of feels that you solved it, you figured it out. And I think that when we are in a very uncertain time, then uncertainty is something that builds a lot of tension in people, because you don't know which direction should I go. For example, I have a lot of clients who are kind of saying, okay, I have a lot of trainings in September, October, but they're saying, we're not sure if it's actually happening. Can you make a plan B that we will make it as an online course? But if I'm doing workshops where people have group developments and presenting it on the stage, it's very tough to deliver that same experience on the online thing. So for me, it's always like a bit, how I do it on the online, how are the physical, what will happen? Should I focus on that one? A lot of questions. So how can I make peace in myself is most through writing or through speaking. So whoever, as an entrepreneur, if the second wave is coming, if you're even isolated more from people, just find people to kind of clarify, express yourself, to have it out. And if you're not able to do it with a live person, then find some like a notebook, a journal, and start mentoring yourself. Writing is like mentoring yourself. You can ask good questions from yourself. You can focus. And actually, one of the reasons, if you ask, can we do this call? Then I said, yeah, because I know that actually what we are doing currently is in a way also like a therapy for me, because thinking those things through and reflecting those things is how it works.
Harald, we could be here talking the whole time, but we have a time frame. And thank you very much for your input. It was really, really interesting. It's always a good opportunity to talk to you. And also to add to what you were just saying, you might not only do a journal, you might do a Skype call or Zoom call and talk with a peer from another country. And for that, JCI is a wonderful network where you can find people that are having more or less the same issues, the same challenges across Europe and across the world. So thank you, Robert, also, and Harald. And for today, it's the end of our Let's Talk Business. We will return soon. We will say when. I managed to put it on Facebook Live at the last point. Reynold, our Senate President, also sent his best. And thank you very much, Harald, once again.
Thank you for having me.
Before you end, I just want to say thank you, Harald. And just, you said 4 things, like work together. I think with the 3 of us working together and get new ideas is a really big lesson. The other big lesson was do marketing, right? And do something you really believe in is good for the world. And what I think is good for the world is do something and don't get disappointed the first time. That was your first lesson. And what, Harald, do you think people should give a like to this video with how many likes does Philippe do a TikTok dance? What do you think? How many likes do you get?
If Felipe is doing the TikTok dance, I would say even if 2 likes are there, then he has to do it.
Thanks for the nice evening, Harald.
Thank you. Thank you
for having me. It was good to stay in touch and keep connecting with people. I mean, that's what we still can do, even in those interesting times.
Absolutely.